Hey, we're live here today back with prostate cancer. My story, the podcast. I'm blessed today to be here sitting with my partner, my brother, my dude, Mike Wallace.
What's up? What's
So,
up? How y'all?
Mike just finished proton treatment. He's cancer free.
Cancer free.
That's the thing.
Yes, yes.
So we're just gonna have a chat today. We're gonna know how did it go?
Man, it was, of course you had the anxiety going into it because of the unknown.
Of course.
But I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it was probably one of the most, straightforward treatments that I've had of anything, especially when you compare it to like orthopedic surgery. I've had 2 back surgeries and a couple knee surgeries, and I the only thing I can say as far as the treatment is concerned, the only big difference was my mental health.
You want to expand on that?
So when you go in, you have back surgery, you're hurting, and you have the surgery. But for some odd reason, especially with Western medicine, we kind of feel like I had no reservation that I wasn't going to fully recover.
Okay.
I knew that it would hurt a little bit. I would have to fight through it, but I would recover. For some odd reason with cancer, man, my treatment, and I guess it being every day, I had anxiety, a lot of anxiety.
Let's recap. Let's start. Let's kind of give them an overview from the beginning. Let's start at, you went to the doctor and you said, something wrong.
Yeah, man, my journey started, man, I had about a 3-year journey. Because I went to the doctor, and of course it was, they treated me for BPH. So we moved forward, and, you and I had a discussion during, kind of a real tragic period in my life. Hey, man, you really need to get that checked because the medication they give you, why are you taking it if it's not working? So that, really that moved me to taking more of a proactive stance and getting to a urologist. And of course, a week later, I'm getting a biopsy, and 12 days later, I have a cancer diagnosis.
Wow, that's really expressed.
So it was expressed because of the 3-year of really being treated for BPH and keeping me on a medication regimen that should only be 6 months. And I stayed on that regimen really over 18 months. So I had already been through that emotion, that mental roller coaster of like, wow, I have all these symptoms, but nothing's getting better. So you still have that anxiety out there of when you do get the diagnosis and you choose your treatment options. And I chose proton therapy. You still have that daily.
How many treatments?
So I had 46. And it varies. And it's all put together for you. It's not just one size fits all. And so with my treatment, mine was not as straightforward. I was in the 2 percentile of men that couldn't get the procedure that they would do to keep from burning your rectum. So I ended up
spacer, OAR gel.
The OAR gel, the spacers. I couldn't. My body wouldn't receive it. My anatomy wouldn't receive it. So I ended up with a balloon, a rectal balloon. And it is what it sounds like.
Painful.
It's uncomfortable. At first it's painful. Just the mental thought of, oh my goodness, they're going to shove this thing all the way up my rectum and then blow it up. But it was really, like I said, and I was told that you get used to it. You don't get used to it. That's just not. Sorry, guys. I mean, we just gonna keep it real. You don't get used to it, but you do reconcile that it's just a necessary evil, because what you don't want is you don't want the proton therapy to burn your rectum, which is a whole another set of circumstances that you don't want to have to deal with. So I had that done each day of treatment. Of course, I had the weekends off. I really look after Friday. I look forward to not coming back until Monday. But even at that, it's still worth it. It was still worth the treatment option. I had a hard time holding because you have to fill your bladder. I had a hard time holding my urine, which again was uncomfortable, but it's something you get through. It's cancer. You got it. You're not just. It's not just going to be a walk in the park. You're gonna. When people say you have been a cancer survivor, you've been through a fight.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for the men out there that's in denial. Feel like, man, I feel fine. I don't have no symptoms. We all know it's asymptomatic.
Right.
I feel fine. Just give me Mike Wallace.
Well, for somebody who thinks that way, I hope we can change their mind. I don't, we don't benefit from trying to scare you. We do benefit from trying to share our testimony. I think the reality of it is, I'm literally meeting people every day. God is putting people in my path. I just met a good friend of my family, and that one of her uncles is now uh, dealing with prostate cancer, and he's in his early 70s. He was told some years ago that he would stand a better chance of dying from old age than prostate cancer.
I hate that.
And I hate that. Because now his death is so painful. It's not. He had some treatment, years ago, he wouldn't be dying the death he's dying now. And I think people want to hear that because we don't want to hear that something's can be debilitating with us. But my thought process was, and my wife and I sat down with urologists, we were like, there's no such thing as a little cancer. And if I have cancer in my body, I'm going to get it out on my terms. Thinking, my thought process was, I sure as heck don't want to fight this and not being as healthy as I possibly can. So, that fear factor that our Western medicine puts in our path, sometimes it works against us. And then, of course, some of the things that we grow up with as well.
Yeah. Authority bias, all those things come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would ever tell you, don't listen to your doctor. That's nonsense.
No.
Nobody ever tell you that. But there is critical thinking.
Yes.
You got to have critical thinking. I think about that statement you just said, you're diagnosed with prostate cancer. And all I know is my personal testimony. He told my dad that he lived 20, 30 years with it. And he did not die of prostate cancer.
Right.
He died of stomach cancer, but it was the root of it came from prostate cancer. He didn't technically die of prostate cancer.
Yeah, the metastasis of if just like, the analogy I was giving my sons were, if I have a car, part of my car and it's rusting, is that rust going to kill the engine? Not necessarily. It's not. Rust typically just takes the body, but you can literally go in, get that rust, take it out, bondo it, come back, and you at least giving your body a fighting chance. And that's the way I look at it. You have to give your body a fighting chance. With my cancer, my cancerous tumors were right next to the bladder. You have to look at, and I didn't realize it until I got my report back and I saw the picture of the anatomy where my prostate was in relation to my bladder. So it just kind of made sense to me you know, if I'm going to watch it spread, watch watching it spread into my bladder is not where that didn't seem smart to me, and this, you know, coming from a novice, but it just didn't seem right and feel right to me.
There are some factors in critical thinking. Ask questions, do your research, seek a second opinion, and learn about the new technologies and trials. That's what I would recommend.
Yes.
There's a few things, a few tools we picked up for our toolbox. We both had proton therapy, and I'm 2.5 years in, and doing amazing. Uh, Mike recently did a couple of things I learned along the way. I want Mike to talk about is, proton therapy has a 99% success rate. I feel like it has less side effects than most of the other therapy. But the thing with proton therapy is it's not a lot of insurances will not cover proton therapy because they're saying the results from normal photon therapy isn't that significant or there's not been enough studies. And I want to address the insurance, how people look at the insurance. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, you know, again, I went through with my mom and her breast cancer many years ago. But what we learned as a family then, that her HMO that she was under, it actually, once my sister and my other family members got together and figured out, did research to figure out what was the best course of action for her cancer, my mom's HMO would not pay for it because it
Wow.
was not in their, and I'm going to call it a menu. It's not in her doctor's menu of treatments that they would pay for.
Wow.
And so we ended up going through with appeals and all that. And we still ended up, I think it was like 60-40. We still ended up paying. And my mom had taught school for 37 years, 37-year educator. And we spent a good deal of the money she had amassed in retirement getting her treatment, her cancer treatment. So we learned as a family, you know, years ago, back in the late '90s, early 2000s, that HMOs weren't a way to go. And I said that the build up to tell folks that your health insurance needs to keep pace with where you are in life.
Absolutely.
HMO, Health Maintenance Organization. It's maintenance, and as when we're young, we can, you know, maintaining youthful health is a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And of course, yes, when you're young and presumably you're in the middle front of your careers, and those that HMO, those it's important to save every dime you can. Make sure your deductibles are low. But as you get older, and thank God that you know I had gone down that road, going with the PPO uh, typically costs you a little bit more when you go to your doctor's visits and whatnot. But when you get, like me, like you, when you go to the doctor and you get that diagnosis that you have cancer or some other something else going on with your health that requires a specialty, you're going to want to go. May not be the person that's in the network or even in your town, but you're going to want to go to the best out there that you can find for you.
Mike speaks from personal testimony. We're shooting this live from Jacksonville, Florida. He lives actually in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah,
He traveled for his treatment.
yeah. I just stayed here. It was I did a 9-week commitment to my health, and you know I was fortunate enough to be able to take off my job. And you know, again at that place, I could take off from my job. Nothing was more important than eradicating cancer and taking care of my physical and mental being. So my wife and I packed up for 9 weeks, and that's all we did. That's what we were here for.
Invested in your health.
Yeah.
And health, you got to look at it, especially at our age of beyond 50. it is an investment. My father used to say all the time, "You stay here long enough, it's something in that pot for you," and he meant like that pot of health. Everybody's gonna get some, so make sure you invest in your health. You have an amazing quote that we've talked a lot during this journey, and I'll let you share the quote. You want me to?
You share.
Mike shared an amazing quote. He was like, "If you have the same health care you had when you were 20 years old, when you're 50, you're not invested in your health."
No.
And that rings bells in my head because I'm thinking back. Muhammad Ali famously said, I think it's Muhammad Ali, if you think the same way when you're 20 and you're 50, you wasted 30 years.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it's the same. I think it's the same way with health insurance. And you know, you and I have talked a lot about the behavior of doctors, but when you really look at it, your doctor is only going to suggest to you, treatment wise, what your insurance is going to cover.
That's all we can.
That's all he can. I mean, there's no sense. I mean, most of us can't just come out of pocket and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for treatment, but your treatment options open up for better or for worse, whether we like it or not. The health insurance companies kind of dictate what treatment you will have, and that's not just cancer. That's any other number of medical issues that we can have. Uh, so I've learned a lot from this experience, and just how important it is to get into a health plan where you have some autonomy of asking and being able to say, no, I understand we have cancer treatment centers in my town, but I want the best. I want, and that's what we did. And yeah, people are getting treated for cancer. I will not tell you that whether it's bad or good or indifferent. People are getting treated for cancer every day in Tallahassee. But for me, coming to the UF Proton Center and receiving proton therapy, I felt like it was the best for me and the best opportunity to eradicate this thing.
After my early in 2022, I completed my therapy at UF Proton, and I felt like I was calling for me to tell people about, you know, prostate cancer, the prostate cancer awareness. So I've been all over everywhere speaking to PVTV. Why are you doing this?
You know, it's really paying it forward. You know, I owe it to you and to Mr. Don Dawson, who like a father figure to me. Uh, both of you, when you did not know one another, but both of you, when back February 1st of this year, I lost my oldest son, MJ, and as God, would have it, in that it brought us together, and two men who both love me, love my family, uh, in separate settings. Neither one of you all knew, but both of you knew that I was having this issue of constant urination and my just all kinds of health concerns. But you both were brave and courageous in the fact that in the midst of me going through tragedy, hey, you need to go and take care of yourself and take care of your health. And it sounds like you have some you don't have more than BPH. You got something that's going on, and that's what pushed me um, to go and seek out. So I feel like while I'm on this journey, I owe it to not just you, but to men in general to be unafraid to have this conversation, because when we look at the statistics, 1 in 8 men, 1 in 8. That's huge, because now that I'm really aware and paying attention, just me openly sharing my journey, I have men that I know personally, men I kind of know through association, of all races, you know, social economic background. It's without uh, any of that withstanding that are reaching out and want to know more. So I mean, you it's going to hit, looking at Alonzo Mourning. I was looking at an interview with him. This man has all the means in the world, have been seeing the best doctors in the world, but still he is asymptomatic with his prostate cancer. And so I think we just owe it to each other, and there are all kind of causes out there you can put, but you just owing it, paying it forward.
And personally, with an analytics background, uh, we all know statistics are meant to be manipulated. I know that people yell 1 in 8, but personally, from my experience, in my family, we were at 4 men for 4 men. All 4 of us had it. We know for a fact 30 to 50% of black, white, Hispanic, all men don't go to the doctor. We know that. They don't go to the doctor. So we know they haven't been tested. So it's probably a little more than 1 out of 8.
It feels like it is. Now, put this in perspective. Now, you said 4 out of 4. Explain that.
My father had it. I didn't even talk. My granddad had it, but I didn't count him. My father, my twin brothers, and myself. We went 4 out of 4. All of us was diagnosed and treated for prostate cancer. My father died of it. Well, he died of stomach cancer, which metastasized.
Right, but it was triggered by he first had an untreated prostate cancer.
Yeah.
So you're telling me one man, Mr. Bendall, has 3 sons.
Yes.
And all 3 sons.
Exactly.
That's just so significant. That is more significant. That's more significant than 1 day. I don't have an analytic background. As a matter of fact, I was in math class several times. But I look at my family, my dad, his brother, and when we look back, even before them, my grandfather, these men didn't go to doctors, and we don't know that it wasn't. But what's the chances of your dad's entire bloodline, the whole entire male bloodline?
Absolutely. He's my dad's brother. You know, for many years, being younger, not knowing what prostate cancer was, knew my dad had cancer because, at least in the African American community, they call it the man cancer. They don't even give it a name. You know, you got that private cancer.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure about other cultures, but for me, I think that's absurd. I thought it was, yes, the man cancers, and I think that most people I know have somebody in their family that suffered with some type of prostate cancer.
Yeah, and I think we're at the generation, quite honestly, of where, information technology is out there. We're able to share, but I think we're willing to share more. I didn't know my dad was treated for prostate cancer 25 years ago. And he got the radiation seeding.
Cyberknife, yeah.
Yeah, but man, he literally kept that a secret.
Yeah, it was a point of it. It's a stigma.
Yeah, I didn't find it out until he recently, within the last 2 years. I had to go down and see about him in the hospital, and that's when I found out. Well, you and I, thank God, we know better to do better. We have to educate our sons and our nephews and other young men of what this thing does and how prevalent it is. I mean, for you almost have to take your son by the hand and like, listen, you're going. This is what you're going to do. And I'm the same way. I've got to. We have to take charge of knowing that. Uh, other things you say it skips a generation, or it may skip you and all of your brothers, all of your dad's male children have prostate cancer. That beats 1 in 8, and the women, it's not because you're just unlucky or you somehow you're somehow not good men.
And I struggle with the stigma of it because I started in the podcast one saying, when I first found out, I didn't want to tell nobody because I was almost embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, you do a lot of thinking when you first find out because you keep in your thoughts and your feelings.
Yep.
I was thinking like, why am I embarrassed? I did nothing wrong. Why am I embarrassed?
Well, it's the attachment of your manhood. I mean, because and let's just let's address the elephant in the room. There's is your ability to have sex, fulfilling sex, and your ability. What man wants to walk around worrying about? Man, am I dribbling it? Am I going to have a urine spot on the front of my pants? And then who do I talk to about this issue? That was for me. For me, it was like I had gotten so bad because it had affected my sleep. Because I was up 6, 7 times a night. I literally was not sleeping more than 20, 30 minutes at a pop, which doctor said, well, you just have insomnia. But it was trying to stay ahead of being dehydrated. It was not drinking. If I knew I had to sit in a meeting or drive for any distance, I wouldn't drink any water that whole morning until after my meeting was over.
Dehydration.
Because I knew I wouldn't be able to sit through it. But I suffered through that in silence for about 3 years. And it is, when you ask that question of why is that, I don't have a definite answer for how. Why is that? But that's the root of your manhood. If you really think about it, and of course your prostate, me finding this out later on, getting into it, it also has a tie to what hormones how your hormones work inside your body, how that affects your mental health, which is another thing. Heck, that's a whole nother podcast. But I do. I was ashamed, but quite honestly, because you were courageously out here being an advocate, getting the word out, it was really easier for me because it was like, dang, if AJ can, if AJ can get out there and speak on it, then God's given me a chance to be able to join the movement.
I would never say prostate cancer was a blessing. Never. It wasn't.
Oh.
Never. But what I will say, I'm grateful that God has given me the opportunity to share my journey with other men. Because along the way, when I was going through it, I met so many men, and then their motto was like, I wish I would have knew earlier. And these was in the advanced stages. They were suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it upon myself to say, I need to do better. I need to talk to people about it. I need to tell people that if you catch it early, I got my life back. 100%, I got my life back.
Right.
Credit you for giving my life back.
Same.
And so we're gonna wrap this thing up. Mike, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. You have proton therapy. The center gave me my life back. I would say to anybody, first of all, know your numbers. Know your numbers. Know know what your prostate, your PSA is, know all of the numbers, and you keep track of it year to year. If you get more than a 0.75 increase, I don't care if you have a very low PSA, but if you grow, uh, if it increases significantly in that 12-month period, you need to take an aggressive action to seeing going to the next step. But we're gonna keep, we're gonna keep pushing the flywheel.
Yeah, we will.
We have got to get to a place where um, this conversation, when we start having conversation with men, they're able to say, "Oh yeah, I know because my numbers are this." I think we've done our job, and when we do approach men and they know what their numbers are. But right now, the more we're approaching folks and people, looking at us like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
So
That's
we won't stop. We won't stop until that becomes a reality. That PSA, knowing your PSA, is just like you knowing your Social Security number.
prostate cancer. Any health issue is a journey, but you got to have the courage to address it. Don't duck it. Learn your prostate specific antigen PSA number and love yourself. If not for you, do it for your family. Thanks. We're out of here. Thanks, Mike, for joining us.
Peace, man.